everybody, I'm just going to show you a really quick training on how to schedule your Class Connect sessions. So here you're on your main screen of your OLS or TVS or your LMS. You're going to select here Class Connect Sessions. Then on the top you have your Create New Session. You're going to click on Create New Session. And that's going to give you this screen. And you're going to get a drop down of a lot of different choices of your session type. You have classroom, homeroom, office hours. You can play around with these and see how they work. But a lot of these, like classroom and individual, some of them won't let you invite more than one, or they won't let you invite just a few people from that class. So oftentimes what I select is small group, because you're never going to have to schedule your co-teaching classes. If you are co-teaching, you won't have to schedule those. Your gen ed teacher counterpart will do that. And they often do that through using the homeroom option. But ours, with progress monitoring and your conferences and your open office hours, a lot of times you're just going to select small group. And once you've selected your session type, you're going to click Continue. And then you're going to have to name the session. And be sure you follow your school level's specific naming format for classes. I know most school levels have a specific naming format that usually says the time and what's being covered in that class for that day. So be sure you find out from your school level exactly the naming convention for all of your classes. Now, if you're just scheduling a progress monitoring session or a conference or a GRASPS assessment or something like that, you can name it whatever you'd like. So I'm going to set up here. I'm going to schedule, say I was scheduling a progress monitoring session. So I'm going to put required progress monitoring. I always like to add that word so that parents would know that it was mandatory. Then you're going to select the subject and say this week I was doing math, but you could change that. You could do ELA, history, whatever you were covering. The course program you can leave blank. That's not anything you need to do. And then you want to put your start date. So you can select on the calendar whatever day your class is, and then you're going to select the drop down for the time that that class begins. If you have a class that starts at like quarter after the hour, you just set it for the hour. So say I had a class that started at 9:15, I would just say that it started at 9. And that means students would have about 15 minutes to get logged in. Then you're going to select the duration, and it automatically defaults to 30 minutes, but you can select however long your class is. And again, if your class is 45 minutes, you would just select 1 hour. You would just kind of round up there. And then this last part is the repeat session. You can never repeat it if it's just a conference and you know it's something that's only going to be held once. Or if you select the drop down, you can select how often it repeats. So if it's something that's held every week or every other week, you can select that. And when you do that, you're going to get this prompt. And you can either end that repeated occurrence after a certain amount of occurrences of that class or that scheduled session, or you can end it by a certain date. So what I do for a lot of my classes that I would schedule, my small group classes, I would just click the calendar and I would schedule it to end on the last day of school. Once you've set up all of your preferences there, you're going to hit Continue. And then you're going to have your Manage Class Connect session screen. Here's where you're going to invite all the participants to your class. And again, anything with a star is required. It won't let you continue without failing that. So you'll need to select a role. I usually select student. If it's a conference, I'll select learning coach. But the good thing, if you select student, anything you K-mail to a student gets connected to the learning coach's account as well. So if you K-mail the student, the learning coach will receive it via their account. And what's good about that is some learning coaches only log in under their student. They never log in under their learning coach account. So it just gives it the flexibility so that way you know the parent receives it. Then you can select a program if you'd like. This is if you're searching for a certain student, like maybe you only want students with IEPs. Again, honestly, I really rarely ever use that. You can select the grade if you want to narrow down, but this is the main one you want to select, filter by. And you're going to want to select your classrooms. That's usually what you're going to do. Now, I have no classrooms, as you can see here, so I'm not going to have any students that populate. But if I had a classroom set up in the OLS, it would show up here, all the classrooms that I would have that would have students. So, for example, if I had my caseload or my homeroom listed here, I could select on that. And then you can click Search, And it's going to show you all of the students in that class. If you want to invite all the students, and again, no name showed up here because I don't have an actual class to use, but if I did, all the names would populate from that class in this white screen right here. So once all the names populated, I could select one student, or I could select all my students, and I could just hold down the control button and select as many of the students as I wanted. Then what you're going to do is you're either going to select this required button or this optional button. And it'll be highlighted, it won't be grayed out once you select a student's name. If it's required, which a lot will be, if it's a class in their IEP, or if it's some kind of GRASP or progress monitoring session, you can click required. If it's something that's optional, like if it's an open office or just a secondary help session that they're not required to attend, you can select optional. If you make a mistake and you want to remove a student that you added, you would just go to this box, and again, this is where you fetch the students from that class. Once you move them to the session that you're scheduling, they'll move to this white box. And once their name's there, that will let you know exactly who will be invited to that session you're scheduling. Once you have that all set up, you'll select continue, and then your Class Connect session review will be here. So you can review that and make sure it's correct, and then you're going to click schedule session. And there you go. And the one thing I wanted to show you as well is with recordings. When you're looking at recordings, after you've scheduled a class, you want to make sure your whole class has been removed from that session. Once everyone has been removed, about 5 to 10 minutes after your class or your session has ended, you can come back to your Class Connect page, and this will happen. It'll say Request Report. Now, after your request report was sent, if you wait 24 hours, this won't be there, but after you've sent your request sent, if you've recorded that class, a little while later, the link will appear, and you'll be able to hit that and be able to show recording, and that's how you'll show the recordings. And I'll give you further training on that. I hope that helps.